Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Various groups have pledged full support for Vice President Leni Robredo to run for president in the upcoming national elections. This after Sambayan endorsed Robredo as one of their presidential bets. The movement called United for 2022, launching for Team Leni Robredo, was launched online on Saturday. Representatives of various sectors vowed to fully support the Vice President if she decides to run for the highest post. Celebrities like Enchong D, Sab Magalona, and Miss Trans Global Mela Habihan also attended the event to express their support for Robredo. Her camp previously said she will announce her decision in September. For a political analyst, it's still too early for the opposition coalition Isambayan to unveil their bets for the 2022 election. Speaking to One News Now, Dido Manhit said Isambayan's effort may be only effective once they actually find a candidate that may be able to face whoever the current administration backs next year.
When they meet the objective of bringing people together to sit and to choose one candidate that can be the alternative to the candidate of President Duterte, that they can be effective and successful.
Meanwhile, when asked to comment on the criteria for voting in 2022, Manhit said there is no data yet, but they are currently running a study on voters, which will be available next month.
We're hoping to get new data, which we are running this month of June, at least a year before the election. So I would be glad to answer that maybe by next month when our nationwide research is done.
Senator Win Gatchalian has filed a resolution seeking an inquiry on the preparation for the next school year. Senate Resolution number 739 seeks to know if basic education institutions can deliver quality education, whether through face-to-face classes, distance learning, and other alternative modes. Gatchalian noted that some students are engaging in online sex sale to fund their education under distance learning method. Based on a Pulse Asia survey, only 46% of Filipinos with a child say their kid is learning during the pandemic. Now, here are other stories we're keeping our eyes on. President Duterte and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, have promised enhanced bilateral relations. The two leaders exchanged congratulatory messages during the celebration of national holidays. Russia was celebrating Russia Day, which coincided with the Philippines' Independence Day on Saturday. Duterte and Putin last talked on June 2, months after their telesummit in April. U.S. President Joe Biden cited the enduring friendship between the Philippines and Washington in celebration of the former's Independence Day. Biden called for continued partnership between the two countries in addressing challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Biden also noted the valuable contribution of Filipinos and Filipino Americans who live in the United States, saying they make their own nation stronger and more vibrant. And Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Romualdez, said the country is finally seeing the, quote, light at the end of the tunnel through the help of the U.S. government. Romualdez noted that the U.S. has assisted the Philippine Embassy in sending COVID-19 vaccines so more jabs make their way to the country. G7 leaders have committed to increasing their climate finance contributions to meet an overdue spending pledge of $100 billion a year. In 2009, developed countries agreed to contribute $100 billion each year by 2020 in climate finance to poorer countries. This, however, was not met. The world's 7 most advanced economies will again pledge to meet the target. G7 leaders are also expected to end almost all direct government support for the fossil fuel energy sector overseas and phase out petrol and diesel cars. Climate activists are urging world leaders, especially those who are in the G7, to immediately act on climate change issues. Let's watch this video from Bloomberg.
The G7 today need to wake up and listen to the science. There isn't room for discussion on this. Scientific inevitability, and they need to act. They don't need to talk anymore. They need to just act.
Climate change has been on the agenda of the G7 since maybe 2003. So we need to see action, not just talk. And we've only got 9 years left to halve carbon emissions if we're going to stop dangerous climate change happening.
United will never be defeated. The youth, unite. Another world is possible.
Now, also from Bloomberg, the steel industry burns billions of coal yearly, but it also produces parts for most green technologies like wind turbines and solar panel. Eddie Spence explains in this video why the shift to green steel is crucial.
The green revolution is being built on a very dirty industry. Steel is critical in almost every single decarbonisation technology there is, be it wind turbines, solar panels, or electricity pylons. The problem is, its production burns billions of tons of coal every year. In fact, the steel industry each year emits more CO2 than all the buses, cars, and motorbikes on the planet. According to BNEF forecasts, to build enough wind turbines to reach net zero by 2050 would require 1.5 billion tons of steel. That's enough to build over 42,000 Burj Khalifas. So what does that mean for the steel industry? It means it's going to have to decarbonise, and fast. It's a huge task because the industry is currently dominated by coal-fired blast furnaces, which emit huge amounts of CO2. Steelmakers are currently exploring two main ways of replacing these. The first is to substitute the coal with biomass and then trap the emissions it produces underground. ArcelorMittal, Europe's biggest steelmaker, is one of the companies looking at doing this. It's an appealing option because it avoids having to do costly retrofits of all the existing blast furnaces. The problem is, this solution isn't necessarily scalable. There simply isn't that much biomass around, and a lot of other industries want it. For example, the aerospace, biofuel. Another option is replacing coal with green hydrogen, which, when used to make steel, will emit only water, making it an inferior greener option. It's also infinitely scalable. So long as you have enough electricity, you can make green hydrogen. One of the companies looking at doing this is SSAB. They're currently in the process of building plants that will run on hydrogen. The problem is, using green hydrogen will require incredibly costly retrofits of all the steel plants. There also isn't that much of it today, simply because the industry almost doesn't exist yet to produce it. All ways of decarbonising the steel industry involve massive costs and huge technical barriers, but there is some hope. Some of the world's biggest steel companies have now committed to reaching net zero emissions by 2050, including ArcelorMittal in Europe, Nippon Steel in Japan, and most importantly, the Chinese state-owned giant Baowu Steel. That's incredibly important because China produces over 50% of the world's steel. Unless China decarbonises, all the efforts of Western steelmakers will be for almost nothing. One of the core issues with green steel is that it is fundamentally more expensive to make than polluting steel. That means that governments have to provide incentives to steelmakers to produce it. Finally, they're starting to do so. The EU Green Deal, set to be announced in July, is likely to contain measures to promote production of green steel. For example, tariffs on foreign polluting imports, as well as high carbon prices to make green steel production more viable. Without measures like these, the decarbonisation of the steel industry simply won't happen, and there will be huge costs for the planet.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and This is World Online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.